Okay, we are live. I think we are live. Thank you for being here. There's already a bunch of people already hanging out. It's so cool when I before I even start, there are already people here. Thank you for coming over, guys. And today we're going to talk briefly about phones. The big topic of tonight is the phone. And then I'll take a Q&A session after that for the last hour, and then you can ask whatever you want. So hello guys, hello entire Meyer. uh, is Rob, is computer plugged in? Yes, the computer is plugged in, so we don't expect any kind of shutdown here. You made it, Android user. Good evening, James Miller, Jason Jones, James Mason. uh, who else did I miss here? Jav, Strife is Justice, Eddie Ordaz, Friskhead. Welcome, guys. Truth Faction, Freelancer, Expert, FS Tech, Nemo77, and Himanshu Mahanta, Scott Woodford, Michi Sarshe. If I don't pronounce these right, you can correct me later on. But hold on, let me bring up the screen here in a more direct view so I don't have to look down. So welcome, guys. Starlight, hello Starlight, hello Mick Chahal. It's way past bedtime. So guys, so if you watch my last if you watch my last video from yesterday, then I don't know what you're gonna do about it. I mean, so I'm showing you that everything that's happening now today is being controlled through these little devices here. And some of you are just saying, well, I mean, we're just gonna leave it be, and I'm gonna start. I'm gonna keep using my iPhone like Starlight. Starlight uses his iPhone. He loves his iPhone, so he's just gonna continue using the iPhone because he just bought it last year. So it's like, well, I can't get rid of that because I paid good money for it. The fact of the matter, guys, is if you saw my video, I don't know how to escape this. I thought about it for a long time. I myself was a major iPhone user, and I have a lot of iPhones. And I had to come up with a solution, and I came up with one. And to be honest with you, there's just so much freedom in having one of these. Freedom, guys. Freedom. I was actually doing the video traveling through the areas where there were protests and some of the areas that were hit by looting and damage. And then I showed you a burnt out building. And I'm just thinking about the fact that the people who were there have been tracked. So some of the people who were in the area, maybe they weren't the ones responsible for setting fire to the building, but they had a phone there and they were tracked. So what do? Do you just not change your habits and just leave it be? Or do you start to react and say, hey, you know what? There is a solution out there. And this solution, although not perfect, now I'm going to tell you what it can do for you, what it can't. But this is a pretty darn good solution. Pretty darn good. I mean, it pretty much. So some of you are asking, and many of you have bought phones from me, and some of you, when you receive the phone, you say, what do I do? What can I do? What can I not do? And you notice I don't give you any instructions. And the reason I don't give you any instructions is because there really is nothing you have to worry about. Once you get a de-Googled phone, you're in very good shape, as good a shape as you can be with a phone. And I'm going to tell you what you can't be safe with on a phone and what you can be safe with. And so we're going to go through that in detail so that you're not worried about it, and you don't come to me and say, what do I do with this phone? I'm nervous. Should I turn on Wi-Fi? Should I connect to Wi-Fi at all, or shouldn't I? And what are the limitations of a de-Googled phone? So, hello, Savvy. Can't stop. Can't stop lying. Storm Brothers, hello. 3U us. Which Google Pixel do you sell? I sell only Pixel 1. I was a peaceful protester 4 to 5 years ago. Kevin Arnold Ashburner. Hello, Mama Goo. Hello, Mama Goo. Good to see you here. Uh, finer, finer e-tails. CJ. Hello, CJ. Silly Willy. Diana Ming. Hello, guys. So welcome. So anyway, let me just tell you what a phone does that's not safe on any phone. It doesn't matter which phone you have. You can have a BlackBerry. You can have a feature phone. You can have the Google phone. You can have an Android. You can have an iPhone. None of the phones can protect you from Stingray. None. I just want to make that clear. Stingray is a government method of surveilling, and they can Stingray any phone. So if you watch my video, there was an actual tented in protest where the people actually camped out in front of the city hall. And those people who camped out, they basically, with their phones, I'm sure they've been stingrayed. And you're asking, well, what does Zucked Stingray? And I have a video on Stingray. Stingray is something where the attack is based on intercepting the signal between your phone and the cell tower. So instead of you going directly from this phone to your cell tower, this phone goes to Stingray in the middle, and then Stingray will feed you to the cell tower. So they can intercept your traffic in the middle. There's actually no solution to that. None. So if you have a phone, some of you are not clear on what I can protect you on, and one of the things I cannot protect is an attack based on Stingray. So what do you do with a phone that has Stingray? Well, one of the ways you can protect yourself if there's Stingray in the area is to remove the SIM card. So you just go into your phone, bring a tool, remove the SIM card, and your phone can still function without obviously connection to the network, to the cell carrier. But you're able to, take pictures if you want to document a protest or whatever you want to do. If you want to, document what's going on, you can do it without having to be live on the network. So what happens is, if you take out the SIM card on your phone, the Stingray attack cannot work. Now, if you have a Librem 5, for the few that have one, and for some reason you got it running, even though most people don't have it running. And I don't have my Librem 5 yet, but if you have a Librem 5 running, you can, in theory, just switch off the baseband modem, which in fact shuts down the power to the baseband modem, which then powers the SIM card, and then you can't be Stingrayed as well. So that's one of the ways. If you have a Pine phone, there's a little, you can actually flip the switch to turn off the baseband, and then in theory, then the Pine phone will block any kind of attack on the SIM card. So they can't get your IMSI and all that. So if you don't have any of that, it's very simple. Just remove the SIM card. So to some people going to a protest, if you don't have time to remove the SIM card, turn your zucking phone off, or you will be zucked. You will be zucked. So any law enforcement guy can hang around in the area. In fact, they could be dressed, in plain clothes, and they can have the Stingray device on their body. They could be wearing a jacket, and Stingray tracker could be on them, and then they could be recording every IMSI of every phone that's in the area within a short distance. And you're like saying, well, that's cool that they got my IMSI. So whatever you are, they have the IMSI numbers of every single person that was in every protest, because it doesn't take much to do that. In fact, It's passive. All they have to do is stand there and then let the device record every IMSI that they encounter on a computer, and it is totally a non-issue for them to find out who owns the phone line. I mean, that's trivial. Trivial. If you have an IMSI, they can go to the carrier and say, who owns this IMSI? The international whatever subscriber identity. Okay? International mobile subscriber identity, or if that's what that means. So there's no escape. If you have a SIM card, they got your IMSI. So again, any phone that functions on a local cell network has to have an IMSI and has to have an IMEI, the International Mobile Equipment Identifier, I think. Something like that. Thank you. Hold on, I'm trying to read the Lax Lifters. Thank you. I'm learning Python, JavaScript. How do I get into privacy software development? I want my learning to be geared toward this goal. Sorry for interrupting. So yeah, if you want to learn a little bit about the privacy part, what you should do is concentrate on encryption, learning how encryption works. Just try out look at some source code of some simple examples of encryption, so you understand what asymmetric encryption is, symmetric, things like that, and how you do salting and things of that nature. So those are like keywords: asymmetric, symmetric, salting, and figure out what those means in code. Then you'll understand a little bit of how it works. What about the VPN on your phone? Again, this is the starting. I'm starting off with what the basic attack is on the phone, and in a protest situation, especially in Los Angeles, the police department used extensively Stingray, and Stingray, the new version of Stingray, forget the new name now, Crossbow, I think. So they have Stingray, Crossbow, and all the other sea creatures that they name, all the intermediate versions. I think the newest one's called Crossbow, and it's again passively this devices can be used to just track anyone's phone in the area, and then they can do an active attack, which is to actually invade your phone. That's a more active attack. But even the passive one, it's very simple. When I'm trying to capture who's in an area, it doesn't take much. All they have to do is be in the area, walk around. They could be in the group, holding a placard, and they could be the one recording your IMSIs. So you don't really know. So, and there's no rush. They collect the IMSIs and collect the identifiers in your names and your phone identity, and then they can go away and store it forever, and you don't really need to worry about it because they gotcha. You've been zucked. So if you want to be helpless and not be smart when you go do these kinds of things in public, then that's what's going to happen to you. So even when I did the video, I had my phones off. I don't want to be. I was I was at the police department and all these different areas right next to City Hall. I am not going to have my phone be tracked by a Stingray. So my phone was off, completely off. So completely off. Airplane mode is zucked up. What do you think? That is so dumb. You think airplane mode does, not that you're dumb, but it's an expectation of most people that airplane mode is going to do something. Airplane mode does nothing. Nothing. So forget airplane mode. Burner phone, no. There's no protection against an IMSI. Nothing. I mean a Stingray. Nothing. The only protection is to remove the SIM card, or to turn off your phone, or to use a hardware switch. Those are the only options. There's nothing else. Now, although we can't protect ourselves from a Stingray attack, and again, a Stingray attack is is government only. It's not attack that you can expect from hackers. When it comes to Google and Apple tracking you, they track you on your normal phone. That's what you can defend against. Well, you know, contact tracing, protest tracing, um, being in the area of any kind of criminal activity puts you at risk just being in the area. And the solution, guys, is to not have the usual Google, Android, and iOS phone. So, half of you have your iOS phone watching this YouTube broadcast tonight. And guys, don't take that phone out of your house. Yes, you can watch YouTube on it and leave it at home. Leave that's Zucker's home. I don't bring my iPhones out of the house. Never. I would never think of taking my iPhone out of my house because the so-called iPhone is privacy is a bunch of crock. iPhone is not privacy. iPhone tracks you like crazy. This is not an iPhone. This is not an Android, Google Android. This is a Google phone. There's zucking no Google in here whatsoever. Nothing. No identity. What can I run on this? Anything. Anything. Just, all you have to do is guard your permissions. Make sure you don't give permissions to anything that you're not currently using. And then I use NetGuard to make sure that the apps that are not supposed to work when I'm not using it are not doing anything in the background. For example, if you're using Yelp not Yelp. Yeah, well, Yelp too, but Waze. If you're running Waze or Yelp, they will actually track your location in the background. And I don't pre-install Waze or Yelp, but if you do, then I run NetGuard to make sure that if I'm not using them, then the phone doesn't emit any kind of data. This is kind of amazing, what I've done here, because the phone does not have any identity. It's not connected to a Google ID. I've never logged into Google on any of this. I've downloaded apps from Google Play. On mine here, I actually have some Google Play apps. I'm running Spotify, Waze. I don't have much. Mostly Spotify, Waze, Incognito for my crypto. Not much. In fact, what else do I have in here? Braxme and Signal. And Navionics for sailing. That's it. I don't have any, everything else comes from F-Droid store. And all the apps work fine. There's no problem with using the apps. They are spoofed. So the apps actually think I'm running Google, but they're not running Google. But the apps don't actually know that because they're being tricked that it's running Google because of something called micro G. So all of this makes the phone think like it's just a normal Google phone, but it's not. There's actually no identity to this. Some of you keep asking me, what if you get one of these from me? What are you supposed to do with this? Do you need to do anything special? No. The phone has no identity. It has no identity. It's not tied to any Google ID. And if you're not on cell data, then you want to turn on your VPN. And I even provide Orbot here so you can use Tor. So if you're like on the road and you want to have extra security, you can run Orbot or you can turn on the VPN. And otherwise, there's really nothing that you have to worry about. If I were in a protest with this, there is zucking no location tracking from Google or Apple. None. You see, location tracking is actually done without your permission. I've said this many times, and I got to repeat it again. Location tracking is not permissioned to Apple and Google. It just runs in the background. T. Torchon, you can't use NetGuard with always on VPN. Correct. You have to use either or. But a NetGuard is really used when you know when you want to guard something in the background. So when you're not using your phone. Otherwise, a VPN will do the same thing. Best mobile carrier for a non-prepaid. Nah, they're all the same to me. You can be tracked on any of them, but I recommend uh, for casual use. I recommend Ting.com because they're able to, if you have a secondary phone, you can, for casual use, for like infrequent use, you can get away with $10 a month. You need specific EMF reader, but the signal noise is so huge. Removing more baked-in spying. I can stop stingrays in iOS with fake location. You don't know anything, Scott Woodford. What the zuck are you talking about? A stingray has nothing to do with location. They don't track location. They just know you're nearby. They don't need your location. They already know where you are because the stingray device is next to you. So what are you going to do? Say, well, I'm not here. I'm in Cuba. It's like the stingray device is going to say, Zuck, you're right next to me because I can see your signal. Which of the three carriers is the best? I'm not going to go tell you that. Thank you, Starlight. 179 watching and only 49 likes. So, yes, if you've been watching, you may want to hit that like button. I'm from China. What VPN do you use? BytesVPN.com. BYTZ VPN.com. That's the best VPN. Can you give some advice? Can you give some advice to people who are living under CCP control? One of the things that I found under CCP control is that Bytes VPN and Byte Store, my VPN and my product, work in China. Why it works in China, I have no idea, but it works. It works in China. So those location scramblers, that BS. There's nothing you can do. Okay, so again, Stingray is not an attack that you can evade unless you turn the phone off or take off the SIM card. So if you want to protect yourself against Stingray because you're in the middle of a protest for either side, take off your SIM card or turn the phone off. If you want to use your phone, then, then take off the SIM card. Otherwise, that's it. If you want to play games on the phone, take off your SIM card, and then the phone is at least usable. But if you are running a standard Google Android, even without a zucking SIM card, Apple and Google are spying on the phone. I want to make that clear. You take off the SIM card, you say, okay, I took off the SIM card, I'm good. No, Apple and Google are spying on your location. In fact, they're doing contact tracing. I just as you know, I install the Google phones over here, and one of the phones I encountered actually got updated. So somebody asked me to de-Google a phone. It took me days to get it done because the phone was already updated with COVID-19 contact tracing. And Zog, I couldn't remove that thing. I couldn't remove contact tracing. That was the most difficult thing. It took several days. I had to reset at the factory several times before I was able to even install anything because they really are making it difficult to uninstall zucking contact tracing on the phone. So, you want contact tracing? Keep your zucking iPhone and Google Android. You'll love it. So they're saying, oh, you'll be safe with contact tracing. Zuck that. Zuck that. Tor browser. Let's see. What? Can you give some advice to people? No, I answered that already. Okay, hold on. Gregory Ortiz. How can I buy the router Well, obviously you have to go to my store on brax.me. So go to brax.me. It's a website app. You can go to the website. You can go to the app, and then you can go to my store. It's on the menu. Uh, uh, is it possible to use a SIM card with your phone? Is it possible to use a SIM card with your phone? Well, obviously you have to use a SIM card, or the phone isn't going to function. So yeah, this is a normal SIM card. So most of the phones that I sell only run on GSM carriers or any of the international ones. If you're different in a different country, they all work. But in the U.S., the standard Motorola's do not work with Verizon. They work with AT&T, T-Mobile, and all the carriers, the resellers that resell those too. It doesn't work with Sprint. It doesn't work with Verizon. If you want Verizon, you have to buy a Pixel, which I also have. The Pixel does support Verizon. So if you're stuck because of the area you're in and you have to use Verizon, then you have to use a Pixel. A Pixel has the same software as the G7. So it's identical. I set it up exactly the same way as the G7. Obviously, a G7 is a newer phone. A G7 is sold new, so it's from 2019. So I sell you new G7s, uh, vintage 2019. That's when they were made, and some of them are very new, like maybe a few months from manufacturing. But but the Motorola's that I've been selling are either brand new or mint, meaning no no blemish of any sort. So normally they're brand new. So I usually give a discount when it's not brand new. But I've been selling those brand new. I have Pixels that are brand new or used. Most of them are used. And the Pixels again are more of an option when you need to use Verizon. If you do not have to use Verizon, then you probably should get a G7 or G7 Play because they're newer phones, so they're going to be faster. So if you have a choice and you don't have to use Verizon, then I would stick to Motorola's. So if you don't have a choice and you got to use a Verizon, and at least I give you the option with the Pixel. So I don't expect to sell a lot of Pixels just to cover those who have to use Verizon. If you're in a different country, then a Motorola is going to work great. The Motorola's that I sell are actually are EU phones. So really were made originally for the EU. So they work in Europe. They were actually manufactured in India, so they work in India as well. But I cannot ship to India. So India blocked shipment, so I can't ship anything to India. Some of you have been trying to buy from India. I cannot sell to India at the moment. So we have to wait to see when the borders are open. Uh, Shipping to Europe is tricky. Sometimes it arrives fast. Sometimes it does not. I, I wish I had a formula, to figure it out. Some people have gotten it in 2 weeks, and some have waited for it for a month and still hasn't arrived. And I can't really tell you what's going on. Hello, uh, some dude, some dude. Is that the same some dude from Periscope? Why GSM isn't that old and outdated? No, GSM carrier. It's gonna use LTE. No, these are LTE phones. GSM is just a kind of carrier, meaning Verizon. I mean, sorry, AT&T and T-Mobile. The Verizon and Sprint are called CDMA carriers. So that's just no. The Motorola does not work on all carriers. For whatever reason, Verizon doesn't want to support them. Why won't you answer about mobile VPN apps? I already pre-installed a mobile VPN app called OpenVPN from F-Droid. There's nothing else you need to worry about. T-Torch Sean. Can we do something? A Windows phone? No. I have a flip phone. Yes, if you have a flip phone, it's going to be Stingray like any other phone. Nothing special about it. You can disable location tagging. No. The thing, guys, is when you have a standard Google or Android in the background without permissions, your iOS phone, your Android phone is doing location tracking in the background. You can't stop it. It's just, it's called Wi-Fi scanning. So what are you going to do? If you have iOS or Android, it's doing Wi-Fi scanning. So you're walking around with your phone doing Wi-Fi scanning, and you're wondering if somebody's actually able to see where you were. And could somebody subpoena that information if they wanted to? Or in the case of Google or Apple, can they use that to profile you in some way? Yes. So I don't know why you would want them to have that information. I certainly don't. So my phone is off because I don't want them to have that kind of access. Now this you don't have to turn off except for Stingray. So this is a de-Google phone already. The only reason I got to turn it off is because of Stingray. Otherwise, I don't really care. There's no location tracking on it without my permission. All apps don't get any location permission by default. So nobody gets my location on this phone. There's nothing you really have to worry about. It's already done for you. Okay, this is like an amazing solution, and we don't use it. At some point, the Linux phones will advance to, well, they're very usable, but unfortunately, I can no longer find Nexus 5 phones, so I can't really push Ubuntu Touch until we have a running Pine phone, because I don't have a way of giving you that solution at the moment. Okay, so Ubuntu Touch is not feasible for me to sell because I can't find the phone to load it on. So that's the reason I'm not talking about Ubuntu Touch, not because I don't like it, but because I don't have a way of offering you that solution. I even turn off all background runnings. Okay. Do you have the link to XDA? Can Stingray intercept my photos, videos, voice, and text data? Definitely the text data, yes. As far as all the other ones, they have that ability if they're doing active surveillance. By default, they don't. They do passive surveillance. So they're not attacking you personally. They're just getting your IMSI and getting your whereabouts. If you're a target, then they can do active surveillance, then they can turn on other things. So you have to be a target. So in the crowd, not likely they're going to be targeting the crowd, in which case they're not going to turn on tracking of individual photos and videos, because that's very time consuming. So they have to have a specific target. Okay, so which carriers are better in the USA? Well, there's not much choice. In the USA, you have to use, for the Motorola's, you have to use T-Mobile or AT&T or any one of their resellers like, Ting.com, Mint, many resellers. So Metro PC and so on. So all of those work. The ones that don't work are Verizon and Sprint. Those only work on the Pixel. I would also suggest not using Wi-Fi anywhere where you don't control the connection. Walmart does Wi-Fi triangulation any phone in range of their network. Walmart, or even probably every federal building, will do what is called Wi-Fi tracking of Wi-Fi probes, which will take your MAC address from your phone. So yes. Now again, there's no, on a de-Googled phone, that's not only is there no identity to it, it actually stops the Wi-Fi probes. Do they need a subpoena to do active? I believe so, yes, Savvy. In the U.S. Not before, but in the last year, I think they do need a subpoena in the U.S. Bluetooth beacons. Well, you're not going to be able to turn it off if you got the update to contact tracing. So that's the reason why I don't want to update to 13.5.1 or 14 on iOS. I don't want those versions. They have active Bluetooth, probes. So I don't want that. So I'm not updating my iPhones, and same with my, well, I don't have any Google Android, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you have a Google Android and you took an update, then you're now Zucked, because now you can't remove the Bluetooth spying. Can they have pressure sensors under the floor? Best voice over IP other than Signal. Signal. That's it. I don't trust any other voice over IP. I do not trust any other voice over IP other than Signal. And I can't even do that with Signal because the problem with Signal is they ask for your phone number. Is your BlackBerry Bold safe? Not from Stingray, but it's safe from everything else other than Stingray. Should I turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi with a Google phone outside? No, you don't have to worry about that on a Google phone. On a Google phone, you absolutely don't have to worry about anything. It does not do Wi-Fi scanning. In fact, one of the ways you notice that, I mean, guys, the Google phone is so freeing. You feel free having this. One of the signals that you're free is that the phone battery life doubles. Instead of you're charging the phone every day, I charge my phone every 2.5 days. 2.5 days. I don't really charge my phone that often. It's not always plugged in. And the battery lasts so long. And the reason the battery lasts is because it's not doing the Wi-Fi scanning or Bluetooth probes. So which means I don't actually get my location tracked at all. There is no location tracking unless I give it permission. Now, it does have GPS. GPS does work. So when I'm using my boat software called Navionics, so I use Navionics in this. So I use Navionics and GPS works and everything works fine. And then when I'm not using Navionics, then that's it. I only give permission when I'm using the app. And I don't really have to worry about anything. It's just amazing. It's amazing. I mean, you really don't have to worry about anything. You can run any app you want as long as it's not Facebook. And if it's not Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp, then you worry less. Now, the other thing you got to worry about on the phone is, of course, your IP address. If you're not doing anything, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're doing something, you are worried about your IP address, in which case then you load your VPN on the phone. Less important if you're on cell data. It's more important when you're home. If you're home and using Wi-Fi, then you either use a Brax router, so you get an automatic VPN, which is what I do. And if you're on the road, if you're not really doing much with it, then you don't even need a VPN on the road as much because the IP address is not yours anyway. You're borrowing a shared IP address. So your carrier may spy on you, but if you're not doing anything, then who cares? There's nothing, they're not getting any data. So the phone itself is not sending any location data to Google because there is no location data. It doesn't exist. Okay, so it's just, it's pretty amazing actually. Pretty amazing. There has been an update to the Stingray, which is called Crossbow. Yes, I mentioned that. How about security updates? Yes, the G7 and the Pixel get OTA updates. The G7 Play will require some manual update at some point. But the G7 and Pixel are OTA, over-the-air updates. You don't have to worry about that. There's no tracking on any Linux phone. Unfortunately, it's a problem of hardware. At the moment, I can't install Ubuntu Touch on a Nexus 5 because I can't find any more Nexus 5s, at least in reasonable condition or price. And because they're becoming rare now, I'm kind of stuck. So I've kind of suspended dealing with Nexus 5s until the Pine phone is completely ready, in which case then the only thing we're going to push is a Pine phone, or when the Librem 5 is widely available, in that too. MAC address is personal, not IP. MAC address is a proximity value. It's not an internet identifier. So if somebody has seen a device with a MAC address and they see it again, then they say, I've seen this device and now I'm seeing it again. So, which is important to, let's say, Walmart, because they can say, well, there's a repeat customer here. or somebody tracking somebody in the building. They want to say, well, MAC address such and such entered the building, so therefore MAC address such and such should exit the building. Are there places where you can get your phone de-googled? No. I only de-google an existing phone that I get. Pretty much leave your existing phones at home. Stop buying new phones. It's not gonna Stop buying new phones. If you're gonna say I'm gonna buy new Samsung, new iOS, iPhone, stop. Bobby Royster. Are there any phones other than Pixel and Moto 7 for which degoogling has been tried, like Redmi? Well, I haven't tried that. I've tried a OnePlus 1, OnePlus 6T, Nexus 5. It's very hard to do phones that you haven't done before. It really is hard. A bunch of people have sent me a OnePlus 6T, and then they sent me a specific model from T-Mobile, and I couldn't even unlock the bootloader. When I tried to unlock the bootloader, it says, T-Mobile will notify you in 2 weeks what the unlock code is. Well, I can't wait 2 weeks for an unlock code. So that's kind of, pointless. So no, give up. If your phone is not on the supported list, give up. These phones are not that expensive. They're under $300. The phones are from $249 to $299. I mean, you can buy, 4 of these make one iPhone. 4 of these make one iPhone. It's not a lot of money. So if you want to get some safety, then you should get one of these. I've literally have a friend of my neighbor's hanging out in his backyard till 3 a.m. with a tablet problem running Kali Linux. My phone is acting wonky. Countermeasures. Brax router. What about unlocked Chinese phones? Yeah, let's say that you have an unlocked Chinese phone, which in theory then doesn't have, tracking from Apple and Google because they're not Google. But you can't control the OEM code, so be careful with that. I mean, I don't trust every brand. So if a company has a habit of spying, which is the reputation of Huawei, do you really want to do that? Pick your carriers. Now, all phones are made in China, but I don't think all manufacturers are necessarily of equal reputation. For example, OnePlus doesn't have the reputation for spying. They've actually originally used open source CyanogenMod, which is the precursor to Lineage OS, since the very beginning. So they seem like an okay company. Will the Pine Watch be safe? It's not. Pine Watch can't track your Linux. I'd rather be spied on by China than the U.S. Well, it doesn't matter where you are. Your government's going to be spying on you. Fair phones are not available to me here in the U.S. So if you have access to a fair phone, then that may be fine. I just don't have access to it. Are you going to sell the LTE router software for the Pine phone? The battery power management is not there yet, so I gotta wait. When the power management is stable, then we can go to that next step. I wouldn't want to live in China. Too oppressive? You mean it's not oppressive here? Why Librem so expensive? Librem is around $700, and I still don't have it. So they sent an email saying that they're going to have the Dogwood version, which is the version before mine, which is Evergreen. That they're a few weeks from getting that delivered. So in my case, I'm expecting it in the fall sometime, hopefully. Aren't Samsung phones made in Korea? No, they're made in China. Now, they could be, they get some parts from Korea, but pretty much every phone is assembled in China. I don't have a router. How does a iOS or Android user stop a hacker from pinging your phone and getting remote access to? It's pretty hard to get remote access to a phone, so I don't think you need to worry about that. that is not that is not a threat to a normal user. Thank you, Chad. Uh, have a Google. I. What are you gonna do with a 5x? 5x is not supported. Uh, Typically, when there's a looping problem, then you have to. Uh, I mean, thank goodness that's your only problem. Normally, it'll brick itself. Since OnePlus is Chinese, China can essentially give give up some control or data. What's your take on that? Historically, OnePlus has not behaved the same way as Huawei. Again, all phones are from China, so in theory, they can insert everything on every phone. In theory, will you sell Linux OnePlus 6 Ubuntu Touch version in the future? There is no OnePlus 6 Ubuntu Touch. Ubuntu Touch runs OnePlus 3 and it's not completely working. So no, I can't. Until something is stable, I can't really do anything. VK, use a VPN. Recently bought a new unused Galaxy S7. Sorry, I don't mess with that. How's battery life with a Google phone? Battery life is double on a Google phone. Double. Which shows you that all the spying software is gone. Double. Can you imagine the extent of spying on a phone where actually half the phone battery usage is actually for spying? It's amazing. Amazing. Double. I only charge my phone every 2 days. Your PC, Intel, and AMD has a backdoor also. Correct. But you can't really, although I understand that, somebody can do IME on a computer on port 5, whatever, 5,000 something. The reality is most home networks do not have port forwarding. So you're automatically firewalled on port 5,000 something. So in order for somebody to break into your computer using IME, they have to be inside your network. So, and I have ways of spotting that. So IME is not a threat from the internet. Somebody has to be close by to attack you on your own network. And really, IME is an attack common on, well, it's not an attack, it's a tech support in a corporate network. So you can't really have an IME attack openly on your home network. So I don't really expect that. So a little bit of it is, it is a way in, but it's not an attack that you expect to normal people. You have to get an active surveillance attack because somebody has to get into your network first, which they can do. Why do you recommend U.S. hosting or infra that sits inside the U.S.? Because you need a warrant to get data in the U.S. So you get alerted. You need a warrant. They can't do it illegally. Legally, just saying, okay, there's a VPN, I'm going to go spy on that VPN. They can't do that. They need a warrant. Okay, if your server is in a different country, they don't need a warrant. They'll just spy on it. So you're saying, well, I'm going to use NordVPN. NordVPN says all their servers is outside of the U.S. and so it's safer. What the zuck are you talking about? In Russia, they just take over the computer. They don't need any zucking warrant. They just take it over. And they just confiscate the servers. They did it to PIA. They just confiscated the servers and looked at the data on there. So what the zuck are you talking about? In the U.S., they have to get a warrant to even check on a VPN, even when there's no logs. Well, my VPN doesn't have any logs, and I have never, so far, been asked to give data on the VPN. I've never received a warrant on anything I've ever done. So I've not received any warrants. There's been nothing. So obviously, I recommend it because it makes sense. Any risk on LOS signed with public keys? No. When will you be a guest? I won't. Your channel is superlative. Thank you, Phil Leo. What book do you suggest? Why don't you read some of the books by Bruce Schneier? Schneier. Okay, and he gives you kind of big pictures about all of the privacy issues. If that's what you want to, I don't want to know what book you were talking about. Samsung has moved phone production to South Korea. Good. Kind of, really? I think I'm not going to use a phone anymore. It's not like it's mandatory. Uh, I had that thinking, but to be honest with you, I'm enjoying this because I don't really have any limitations on the Google phone. I can do whatever. As long as I'm not on Facebook. Facebook, I can't help you with. But if you're not on Facebook, it's fine. There's nothing it will do to me. When this goes overboard, I move to forest and find empty house. Well, I have a boat. I can live on the boat. Elaborate on how to enable SE Linux is already enabled. What are you talking about? All Androids have SE, especially new Androids have SE Linux already enabled. You don't have to do anything special. It's part of the installation. Can BRAC router be used with CenturyLink? Can only use router to motor. I don't know what CenturyLink is. Even my keyboard is made in China. Okay. Most electronics, little electronic parts, resistors, capacitors, LED lights, batteries, they're all made in China. No more YouTube app logged in. Not on this phone. Actually, I do YouTube on a computer. So I don't really care. I have a VPN on. I use YouTube on a computer. You guys need to use a computer more. To be honest with you. Get a Zucked computer. Don't rely on your phones. Why won't you discuss the virtual phone number option? What do you mean, why won't I discuss it? I've already discussed virtual phone number options. I don't have a virtual phone number option other than Google Voice. That's all I've used. Privacy is over. A lot of it is, but not completely. Do you trust all of the apps on F-Droid? For the most part, they're tested by a lot of people. So yes, unless somebody reports something, otherwise, F-Droid is pretty trustworthy. Bruce Schneier is a hero. Bruce Schneier came up with the term public interest technologist, which is what I am, and so I'm using his term for that. When a Google phone be counterproductive phone to have, considering their yes, a Google phone is counterproductive to have. That's why I do not have Google phones. I have AOS speed de-Googled phones. This has no Google on it whatsoever. Android open source project. There's no Google in here whatsoever. None. Can the Brax router? No, you can go to. You don't need a special router to go to I2P. If you want to use I2P, just turn on I2P. It will work with everything you're using now. You can use Brax router or not. I2P works either way. I don't know what CenturyLink is. I have Google Pixel 4. I can't compare, because what are you going to do with a Google Pixel 4? You're going to use Google. So how is that a comparison? If you're going to use there's no solution for Google Pixel 4. The solution is Google. Hello, Drac. How to secure the phone via XDA developer. Is it possible to install Kali Linux on a phone? Why? Why would you want that? If you haven't, you can make a video on hardware spying in detail. I already did. There's how. I have so many videos on that. Start watching Who's Spying on Your Phone, Part 1, Part 2. That's all hardware related. CenturyLink is a deal ISP. Okay. How are you doing, Drac? Good to see you. Thoughts on U.S. senators? Yes. Zucked up, Joe Smith. Zucked up. Why would you use Google Voice for virtual numbers? It's a Zucking Google app. It's perfect because I use it for disinformation. So since my Google Voice doesn't attach to anything, it only goes to a phone without a SIM card, then I can use them for disinformation. It's like saying, why can't you use Gmail? Gmail's perfect for disinformation. If you're using it for something that doesn't have anything important, it's perfect because you're not identified. It's how you use it. If someone forces you to identify yourself, zuck that. But if they don't, and I give you a way to use Google Voice without an identity, I actually remove the phone number from it, and my Google Voice goes to my iPhone, and the iPhone has notifications, and so if somebody Google Voices me, I don't actually get the call. I get a notification on my iPhone, and that's really pretty much what I dedicated my iPhone for, is just Google notifications. And so it doesn't have a SIM card. Your Bible is printed in China. Could you use LibHandy to optimize apps for mobile? That's kind of a that's kind of a Linux programming topic. Yes, you can, if you're doing Linux, but we're not talking Linux right now. Graphene OS only does Pixel, yes. DSL, not deal. Okay, do Pixels have Google backdoors in the hardware? Whoever the OEM is that makes the phone has the potential for putting some backdoor in, and it does in fact exist in the cell baseband modem. So this is the area that I can't protect you against. It's the cell baseband modem. That's why the only defense in that area is to pull out the SIM card. So if you're going to a protest, I would pull out the SIM card. Kenshin Oroshimaru. Hello, Christopher. How are you doing, buddy? Trucker man. If you need Google Apps, but you only use stuff like Signal, you are better without it. If you need Google Apps, then you're zucked. Google Apps don't work on a Google phone. Is there an iOS app for Stingray detection? The Stingray detection that I posted on Android is not 100%. It doesn't actually work, but it can give you an indication. So if you're being spied on, it shows up as an extra cell tower. So even though the app itself is buggy and doesn't really work, the one that I posted in my Stingray video, it actually kind of gives you a clue if you're under active surveillance. So far I haven't detected that, at least for me. Google of all companies would seem to be apt to do a hardware backdoor. T. Torchon, Google doesn't make hardware. Thoughts on removing the GPS? You can't do that. You can't do that. Phones are not made like that anymore. It's an SoC, system on a chip. So the whole computer is on a chip. So the baseband modem is a full computer. The baseband modem is a computer. It's not just a chip. It's a computer. It's running Linux on the chip. So you can't say, well, I'm going to take the GPS off, where that's like saying you're going to destroy the computer. It's not like you can isolate a part in it. It's, it's all like nanotechnology in there. It's, 14 nanometer, whatever, components. You can't mess with that. Black phone, BS. Forget that. What are your thoughts about smartwatches? Use a Pine watch. But you're not going to be tracked on a watch, to be honest with you. You're not going to be tracked on a watch. They do track watches, but mostly it's a software tracks you, and then the whoever makes the watch can actually do it separately. But and they have done that with some of those like Fitbit things, but it's not fully tracking because it doesn't have an identity. So yeah, they actually have shown that they can find out, where the military bases are because they can see all these people doing exercising with Fitbit. But that's not our primary concern. Uh, are LOS Micro G ready a good start? Absolutely, Jav. If there's support for LOS with Micro G already for a specific model, then you're off to a good start. But it's really hard to unlock bootloaders in some of these. So sometimes you're stuck there, just unlocking the bootloader. Is there a decent feature phone that doesn't run on Kai OS? Kai OS is a problem because it's Google. I haven't looked for any safe, feature phones anymore because they're Kai OS. What do you think about the new Pablo Escobar V? What the zuck is that? What should someone set up? What should someone set up first for a new PC? VPN or router? You mean a VPN router? I'd say a VPN router is always best. But if you're not doing anything yet on the computer, I wouldn't worry about it because you need to do some action for the tracking to make sense. Hello, Vic Zart. The Swatch is untrackable. That's true. Is iOS 14? Oh, good. If you have iOS 14, then the Bluetooth spying will start immediately. So if you want Bluetooth probes, yes, go 13.5.1 or 14. That'll be good fun for you. Pop OS, same Google. I like the longer live streams. Well, I can't do longer live streams because it doesn't transfer over to the library. Which is the best to buy? Samsung 9? No, I do not recommend any kind of iPhone, or I don't recommend any kind of Samsung. I don't recommend iOS or Google phone. They're sucked up. Please, guys. How to secure my privacy if I still want to use services provided by Google? Do not use any services provided by Google. Use fake services provided by Google, which is faked by Micro G. Do not use any Google services directly. But you can use, you can use Gmail indirectly. There's ways to do things indirectly, but I wouldn't use Google Drive or any of that. They spy on that. I mean, some of you are saying, well, I need Google Drive, so you store your stuff in Google Drive, and they read everything you put in Google Drive, and they do facial recognition on the photos that you put in Google Photos, and they state that in the EULA, and you still do it. It's like zucked up. It's like saying, Facebook says we're going to spy on whatever photos you put in, and you keep sending them the photos. Well, I can't help you. Do you think all cops have Stingrays in their police car? No. Obviously, they don't have too many of these, but all they need is a Stingray team that can take care of it. Best phone to buy? Obviously, a de-Googled phone, Jim Aragon. A de-Googled phone. Can you use GPS and Ubuntu Touch? Yes, you can. But it's even better to use, like I said, I use Navionics on my de-Googled phone, which I sell these on my store. They're brand new. And I use Navionics. If you don't know what Navionics is, for sailors, it's basically like chart plotting software for, the oceans and waters. So I can, plot GPS things, full chart plotting available on my phone, even on the Google phone. It works fine. And there's no Google on it. What about encrypting my Google Drive? Good luck with that. What are the first steps to delete all personal data on the internet? Facebook. That's very first step. Facebook. I'm not updating my iPhone. Keeps wanting to install, but it's not going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen on mine. Once you've spent years using Google services, you've been in their system for a long time, then you decide to leave. What you should do about your data that they already have? Well, what can you do? You got to deal with what you have. Don't give them any more data. Do you have a suggestion for a beginner cybersecurity coding project that I can code in Perl? Perl? Who uses Perl now? Any app that can perfectly replace Google Maps? Yes, Ozman, OpenStreetMaps, from F-Droid. It's a pretty good app. It's actually nice. And Waze runs. Waze runs fine, even though it's Google. It doesn't use Google Maps. Used to watch you on Periscope, Jim Aragon. Jimmy, you must have used a different name there. Can a Google phone be hacked just like anything else? You know, it's hard to hack a phone. Very hard. Phones are hard to hack. You have to have some very advanced capability to hack a phone. Normally, I already have a video on that, on hacking your phone. It's pretty hard to hack a phone. I don't have any opinion on a Django framework. Did you turn off, let's see, is BlackBerry more private than iOS and Android? A BlackBerry 10 is Android. FYI. You think if I encrypt data with a good key and upload it to the drive, Google has the power to decrypt it? No, but it's tracking you anyway. It knows from metadata, it knows what you're doing. So what the fuck are you doing? So yeah, what the fuck are you doing? So, you know, metadata. And you're using Google Photos, right? You can't encrypt that. How long Facebook store data in their data centers for zucking ever? Can't wait for my... Hello, Pete. Google actually contributes a lot of their map data to OpenStreetMaps. Well, that's good. What do you think of the next Microsoft Surface? Nice computers, but, you know, if you want them, they're fine. MapQuest. How does a Bluetooth track your location? Bluetooth itself is used for contact tracing, not location tracking. It tracks, you know, who you were next to. And if one of you has a location on, then they can track location indirectly from that. But Bluetooth is for contact tracing. So it's like saying, oh, the following people were together. Is the phone carrier on your Brax profile store pretty good? I'm tired of Verizon. Verizon is pretty zucked up, to be honest with you. They have so many limitations, and, you know, I just don't like Verizon. Microsoft announced they're closing retail stores permanently. Okay. Any improvement of XFing pics before upload? Yeah, upload it to Braxme and then download it, and it'll be exif free. Thoughts on something like the Surface Go with LTE? Computers by itself, you know, if you use a VPN, they're fairly safe. If you have a computer and use a VPN, you'll be fine. Is Windows Phone a better than... Come on, let's not talk about Windows Phone. Nobody has a Windows Phone. Is it worth switching phone to Google if you have a computer that's Apple? Yes. It doesn't matter if you have a computer that's Apple, because computers do not track you in the same way as a phone. I don't actually have a problem with using a Mac. I have a Mac. I don't use it much, but I have a Mac. I use Linux. You know, even Windows, if you just use a VPN and turn off all the tracking in there for Windows, even Windows is not on a computer. They have very limited information on the computer. They don't actually track a lot of things if you know how to set it right. Like, do not use a Microsoft ID. I only put a local password in. Scrambled EXIF, use a VPN and Cloud Tor. He says he uses Ubuntu. I was wondering, zipping password protect of my personal projects, upload them to my drive for safety metadata from some Python project shouldn't be much leaky, I suppose. Why do you persist in, you know, using Google Drive? So that means you have to log in. Do you understand that the moment you are on Google Drive, you've logged into Google? So whatever you're doing on the side, it doesn't need to be on Google Drive, is now being recorded. So why? Why would you say that's a good thing? Is it possible to go full RMS and still have convenience while using computer? Again, a computer is... The danger of a phone is... it's like 10 to 1. Phone versus computer. Phone versus computer, 10 to 1. Now, when you go the Google phone, then now, the risk of this is the same as a computer. Okay, so a iOS and a Google phone, standard Google phone, has 10 to 1 more tracking than a computer. A de-Googled phone, well, it's still more than a computer because it has a SIM card. So you go from 10 to 1 to maybe 2 to 1. So, yeah. Is there any difference between tracking a phone versus tracking a tablet that does not have mobile internet? A tablet still has all the tracking for Wi-Fi triangulation, but it does not have the Wi-Fi scanning if it doesn't have GPS. So if your tablet does not have a GPS, can't do it. So many tablets have GPS. So go check. For example, a Samsung may not have cell but may have a GPS. If it has GPS, it can do Wi-Fi scanning. GitHub is public, so what do you care about version control? It's public, so fine. I read black hat hackers can infiltrate Android phones via SMS. Is this true? Yes, it's in my video on SS7. Go watch my videos on who's spying on your phone. But this is more government level. It's not something a normal hacker can do. You have to have some special access. Yeah, they're SIM jacking and so on. They're not threats from normal attackers. They have to be like pretty high end, meaning state player, and they can. Yes, they can. It's in my video. I can't protect against those. So the only protection against that kind of attack, the same with a what do you call this? Stingray, is to take off the SIM card. If you take off the SIM card, then that attack fails as well. Phil Leo, thanks. Thank you, Pete. Can you make a SIM-less card? I wish I can, but the only choice is to use Sprint, and it's like, zuck that. I'm not going to use Sprint. But basically, a Sprint is your SIM is inside the phone in memory. So I don't like these eSIMs. That really bugs me. eSIMs. Do you want phones with eSIMs? So the new iPhones have eSIMs. That means you don't need a physical SIM card, so they put all the code for the SIM card inside the phone. That means you can't turn it off. Zuck that. Zuck that. Nbox is in Linux phones, but it's not known to work too well. So far. Will the new versions of the Google Androids also have contact tracing? Absolutely not. Umar Awan. No, they do not have that. Umar Awan, I'm telling you right now, they do not have contact tracing. Absolutely not. Is there a way to block silent text like the ones used to start SIM card hijacking? Yes, pull out the SIM card. Is AOSP the Google ROM you're using on G7 rooted? No, I do not root any of the phones. My phones are not rooted. The Pixel is actually relocked. The bootloader is locked on a Pixel. On a G7 and G7 Play, if you try to manipulate the bootloader, it will actually reset your data. So no one can steal your data on a phone, because if they try to do anything to it, it resets the data. So it wipes out everything on it. eSIM bugs you too. Kelly Miller, yes. Time to get out the Motorola brick phone. That's even worse. What do you think is worse? iCloud Drive? What do you think? Who do you think is worse? iCloud Drive or Google Drive? They're both bad. Jeez, I don't use either one. Will you sell Go Zuck Yourself shirts? Do I need to sell Go Zuck Yourself shirts? I already sell What the Zuck shirts. Okay, so I already sell, no, Zuckbook. I sell Zuckbook shirts. Yes, thank you, Starlight, for reminding. There are hundreds of you that have been here. Hundreds of you that have been here. Please hit that like button if you find anything I talk about interesting. Dottie, thank you. Thank you, Dottie. Does Google obtain less data from China because they can't even connect to Google? Yes, correct, Ken. That is correct. Yes, but then it's like, Google collects less information, China collects more. It's like you can't win here. Somebody's always trying to take your data. Let's make a virtual phone. Actually, there's a way to do that. Vic Zart. The way to do it, and I want to make a video of it someday, is to use Linux on a phone and then run Nbox or some sort of Android emulator. Then you can run Android apps on a computer, and then to make it seem like you're on a phone, but you're not. So you can run Android apps using a emulator, an Android emulator. How secure are those old flip phones with limited features? They're secure enough for from Google spying, obviously, but they're not secure, and no phone is secure from SIM card attacks and from Stingray attacks. The community is growing. Hopefully, have done that. Why does it work, Daniel? Does it work good? Why are Linux phones safer than the Google phones? Because not all Linux phones are safer than the Google phone, but a Pine phone is absolutely safer, and a Librem 5 is absolutely safer than any Google phone. And the reason is, even though this is Google, there's an OEM area, meaning the vendor has an area where they can insert code, and unless you block that, which you can, but it's kind of difficult depending on the model. It's blocked here on this model. The OEM code is not running. But if you have a Google phone, the OEM area can have software from, let's say, Huawei. And that poses a danger because you don't actually know what those programs are running. There's nothing like that in a Linux phone because it's all open source, 100% open source for whatever code is on the computer. So the only spying that you can do on a Google phone is on the baseband modem, which is kind of a black box, which is true of all phones. So in that sense, the Linux phone has an advantage if it's a pure Linux phone, not an Android converted into Linux. If you're going to compare the Google phone and, let's say, a Nexus 5 running Ubuntu Touch, they're kind of the same because it has an OEM area on a Nexus 5. So there's nothing really special from that point of view. Okay, so the true value of an Ubuntu Touch is to run it on a real, pure Linux phone with no Android. In the case of Ubuntu Touch on a Nexus 5, Ubuntu Touch is hosted by Android. So that's what you want to eliminate. And you can't do that on any phone that's been converted to Ubuntu Touch from Android. You have to use a pure Linux device like a Linux phone and Librem 5. Those are the only two right now. Linux phones that are pure Linux only exist in the Pine phone and the Librem 5, and they're not yet ready. They're not ready yet. So unfortunately, our live chats archived. They're always they're on YouTube. They're permanent. Do you recommend your cloud or Nextcloud? I don't recommend anything. Use whatever you want. Why is the Pine phone so much cheaper than a Librem? Why don't you ask them? Maybe a good solution is 4G LTE SIM card enabled laptop. Nothing wrong with that as long as you have a VPN. And even if you don't have a VPN, it's already semi-safer because your IP address is not your own. So yes, LTE, if that's a solution, for like a single person, it's actually somewhat of a solution. You have a Pine phone, TechWiz. Awesome. Now, the only problem, like I said, on the Pine phone is that not everything is stable yet. For example, the power management still needs some work before I can start actually doing things on it. Hopefully we'll pair with your what? It's great. Braveheart. It is great. Braveheart here. It is great. Oh, you have a Braveheart edition. Is 5G dangerous to human health? Unfortunately, Kurt, all all G is potentially bad. They actually did a study on 3G, so we don't even know anything about 5G, and they've already shown that there's some potential for something going on 3G. So can't really answer that beyond that. What are your thoughts on Firefox VPN and Proton VPN? I don't have any thoughts on that. Bytes VPN, bytzvpn.com, bytzvpn.com, bytesvpn.com. Guys, you're buying VPNs from unknown parties. You don't even know what their motivations are. And, I have my own VPN, and you know who I am, and I've gotten good business now from people just from my channel. I don't really do any kind of advertising. 100% of the users on Bytes VPN come from this channel and just from me mentioning it here. And I don't need it to grow big. I just, I'm just providing a solution for you, and most of you are coming in and staying. And so the Bytes VPN solution is working very well, and you're talking to a real person. So promote your own VPN if you want, but the fact of the matter is, who are they? You're trusting your security to NordVPN with a Lithuanian company that apparently is owned by a company that deals with selling your data. So you really trust them, huh? So you may want to use NordVPN. You trust those guys. So, if you trust this face, then go use my VPN. 80 a year for Bytes VPN. I'm gonna get some bread. What does that mean? You want a free VPN? Then if you want free, then go to NordVPN. Pay for their VPN. So, yeah, I mean, I provide a service. I got to pay the bills. So I don't make much money from the VPN. Making your own VPN is useless if you're the only one using it. Nemo is absolutely right. So, yeah, you don't want to have too big of a company with a VPN, because then it's known that you're on a VPN. On the other hand, if there's too few of you, then it's a bad thing too. So Bytes VPN is nice in the middle. We're not too large, but there's enough users that, it's impossible to tell whose data is whose. Privacy people are rare breed. Yeah, hello, Mad Cow. Who's worse, China or Google? Don't know. I'll save up and join your VPN. Oh, thank you, Jaden Theodore. Thank you, appreciate it. I don't know anything. Nothing good. Huge D bite. There you go. Grow food now. Huge D bite, buddy. How are you doing, my friend? Grow food now. Huge D bite. You need a bug out boat. Why don't you have a boat where you can bug out? Put some solar panels on it. That's the only thing missing from my boat. I don't have solar panels on it. I'm like putting in all the stuff on it, and I'm gonna put radar on it and everything, but I don't have any solar panels on it. So in order for me to be efficient, I got to get some solar panels. Does cell phone tethering use DHCP service? Yeah, of course. I tried to use Linux OS without gaps and use apps only from Android, but it's made my life very inconvenient. Yuvrav Sharma, if you're using a Google phone, you run Aurora Store with micro G, just like in my video. Go watch my videos on Google phone so you learn about micro G and Aurora Store. And it functions pretty much like a normal Android. I pretty much do everything as long as I'm using free apps. Will Bytes ever get hacked? So far, no one's hacked it. So I don't know. You can never say never, but so far, Braxme, Bytes VPN, none of those have been hacked. Ever. and it's been around many, many years. Have you tried a Google OnePlus 7 Pro? No. Uh, Feature phone is good for like two-factor authentication. So it could be useful for sticking a SIM card for casual use for two-factor authentication. Uh, Thank you, T. Torchon. I mean, you yourself asked a lot of questions. I had a PIA but switched to Bytes VPN. Thank you, Vic Zart. Thank you. What is the alternative to having a SIM card for phone service? None. However, you can use Signal. Signal has the only voice over IP and video chat that I would trust. That's it. I don't think I trust. That's probably one of the big things about Signal is that they are doing voice over IP and video chat, like FaceTime equivalent, and with encryption. From what I've read, I think it's pretty good. So Signal, that's one thing that Braxme does not have. It's voice over IP and video, and Signal does a good job. So I'm promoting that. In fact, I install Signal on my phones. We'll check Aurora Store. Yes, that's what you need, Aurora Store. How do you install MicroG? You got to go to the MicroG website and install it manually. Have you tried Sessions? No. What about Nextcloud, SMS? I'm telling you what I trust, Signal. Can voice over IP be identified by the government? If you're not using Signal, yes. If you're using Skype, all that, then yes, you can be identified. It's part of the CALEA law, but Signal is not covered by that. So Signal is good. Signal, yeah. Where's the squash or K-pop? Yeah, Vic Zart. Signal centralized server versus Riot IMN your own server. Some of you are like saying, well, I'm going to use a matrix server, and you don't understand that it's blockchain based, and there's actually a lot of metadata and IP addresses and all that on there. So be careful. I mean, just because a lot of people use it doesn't mean it's particularly safe. I don't know why people are jumping into matrix, for example. The metadata, I mean, it states so clearly, we track your IP address. Like, suck that. I'm going to stick to Signal then for voice over IP. Why do you trust MicroG? Why shouldn't I trust MicroG? It's open source. MicroG doesn't do much. I looked at the source code for MicroG. It's basically intercepting the calls to Google. Can you talk a little bit about library? I'm down to 2 minutes, so I'll answer that. Maybe my final thing to talk about here, Starlight. Guys, I am on Library, LBRY. And, I am new on Library. I'm, goodness, have I been there for 3 months? Probably 2.5 months on Library. And I have over 10,000 subscribers or followers on Library in 2.5 months. I am in the top 50. I'm in the of the I think there are like 250,000 creators on Library. In 2.5 months, I'm now in the top 50. The top 50. I have 10,000 subscribers, and some of these established channels in the top 25 have 16, 17,000, and I'm already at 10,000 subscribers, and I'm at 26,000 or so, or a little under, just before 26,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and I am already at 10,000 on Library. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So that's incredible. It's just you already have 1K on Library. Wow. So thank you for those of you who are on Library is going to watch this video. That's why I want to cut this short. so that it gets transferred to the library. But it's the support on library, and a lot of people coming into Brax Me are not from YouTube but from library. So thank you so much for doing that, and you can watch my library video. Uh, I think I'm on your library. Thank you. Is your VPN safe? Very safe, James G. Okay, guys, I'm out of time. I gotta keep this to an hour and a half in order for it to transfer to the library. If I do it any longer, then the video will be cut. So thank you guys, and please support the channel. I do have a Patreon account, and this is a very difficult thing. There are other things I could have been doing other than making YouTube videos. So your support helps to sustain the channel. Buy my products and support us on Patreon. And thank you for those who gave super chats and any contributions you make. I mean, that's really, really helpful. To grow this channel. It has to grow to. I can't even do the phones anymore. I have to hire people to do the phones because there's too many phones to be made. So I even have to hire that. So thank you so much. On Periscope, I have 30,000 on Periscope, and I'm basically gonna surpass that already with YouTube. So please hit the like button to tell the algorithm that this is a great channel that so other people can watch. So your support, when you support my videos and by hitting likes and so on, and by making all these comments in here, you're actually convincing the algorithm that they should recommend my channel to others. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you. And my last video was more of a big picture, and then I gotta go do videos of how-tos, and so I still need to do a video on actually how to connect a Brax router. The Brax router is a big item. Many of you have it and have or want it, and I want to show you how easy it is to install it, because that really simplifies your privacy life to have a Brax router. So anyway, I'll that's in my to-do list to make a video about the Brax router. So thank you very much, guys, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in video on Thursday morning. Thank you, T. Torchan. Thank you, guys. Good night.